Happy Christmas, Steph.
Happy Christmas. We say Merry Christmas, but Happy Christmas.
We say Merry Christmas sometimes as well. Not, I feel like Merry Christmas gets written more than said. I don't know if I would say to someone Merry Christmas,
Really?
but
I
on
wouldn't say
Christmas
Happy
cards
Christmas.
it might say Merry Christmas.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm. Yeah.
Happy Christmas. Do you know what I started saying? Like I started saying up my street
Oh.
naturally because I
Mm.
does now it's just what it sounds right to me. But Happy Christmas, everybody.
Especially if you're listening to this on Christmas Day, on the release date, which some of you probably listening to it after Christmas because Christmas Day can be quite full for some people and well, not for everyone.
What'd you say?
I said, but not for everyone. I don't know. I said that, and then I thought of people perhaps for whom
Yeah,
Christmas Day isn't full, and
you're right.
perhaps there's a lot around us around time with family at Christmas, and not everybody has family or spends Christmas with family. But let's not pull at that thread
That
now. We're here
doesn't
to
mean it's
talk
not
about.
full though, like full of even just emotion. Like I think Christmas can be full on.
I think someone had a mimosa with their Christmas breakfast, did they?
Sorry. I
I
don't know
didn't even know
what I'm
that's
doing.
funny. It was just a way.
I know, I heard it. And I was like, why are you talking like that? Oh my gosh. I'm a
Dear.
little giddy or punchy
Yeah.
today. Um, Maybe that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what what do you think that listeners, some listeners, obviously not all, would be dealing with today that would be helpful for them to hear about?
Well, some of it might be about taking care of themselves afterwards.
I'll say this, that when I think about what was the hardest for me Christmas Day as far as taking care of myself, it's like a feeling that I would have. So on Christmas, I would get this sense of existential something. Like it would happen on birthdays too, but like Christmas was this day that I would wake up in a foul mood. I know this is not true for everybody, but I just for some reason I think I know the reasons, but I would wake up like this. And everything,
Can I just interrupt? Can I just interrupt and ask, is this pre-kids or even after you've had
even
kids?
after,
Okay,
oh, it
yeah,
was
sorry.
terrible. I had this terrible relationship with holidays, and I would wake up anyway. I would be and I used to plan we so Mike and I one year got a waffle maker and we were like, let's start a Christmas tradition where we have these homemade waffles in the morning and it will become a memory for the kids and then this will be a thing because yeah, it was just our plan. And do you know how many years we made waffles? I think Mike made them maybe twice, but I never ate one, not once, because I would wake up in this mood, and either the mood would be because I binged Christmas Eve, or maybe it's because I saw my whole family Christmas Eve, um, or
Could it be because you'd eaten seven fish on Christmas Eve? Is
no,
it
that was the
seven?
joyous, that was the self care. I loved my seven fishes, and I will die on that hill. But I was just miserable, and so there was always a reason not to eat the waffles, whether it was because I binged or because I was just in this mood and I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy on Christmas. And I would feel the weight of like New Year coming. And I guess maybe there's something in family seeing you and the exposure of that. And the whole like, it's Christmas and my life is like this. It was just this, I think it was bigger than I could ever even understand. And so I always felt really in a vortex on Christmas days, which was really sad to me because when I was a kid, I really liked Christmas days and I could never reach that same level of joy. And maybe it was that. It was like this buzzkill of the reality. But that's what my Christmas days were made of. And I found it very difficult to stay in any kind of gray area thinking on a Christmas day. If that's you, like, like,
If
wait,
that's your specific experience, Steph hears you. She's got you. Okay, question. Has that shifted since recovery in terms of are you a Christmas Day person now, or is
mm,
it just you don't wake up in quite so much of a funk? Or maybe it is still quite existential for you.
good question. So I assumed it was all food related, but I still struggle a bit with holidays. Um, I think that I also have a pattern of that because I grew up in a household that struggled with holidays. So my nervous system's like, this is what we do. Like, this is just what is. And my nervous system work has been helping that along. So last Christmas, I felt happy. But I would say that even post recovery, Christmases are a little bit tough. But I no longer get lost in it. And I no longer like feel like it doesn't dysregulate me to the point where I don't have any control over it. And partly that comes from me sort of having a greater understanding of my patterns and accepting the discomfort of Christmas not looking the way that I picture, especially with kids. Because you imagine, I mean, the picture is you come downstairs and your kids are opening the presents and mom's sipping her coffee and like laughing and throwing her head back. And, everyone's hugging. And this is not how my Christmas morning feels. And I struggle with that in general because I am not the picture of the mom I thought I should be or the anything, like it's and that comes across on Christmas for me. And so my self-care practices on Christmas Day, but in any other day of the year that this shows up, is mostly of compassion and being willing to be where I am instead of to expect myself to be in some kind of fantasy day or like fantasy picture of what I thought life was supposed to look like. And just kind of being in the here and now of it instead.
What do you mean when you say that your family struggled with the holidays? I mean, broadly, you don't have to go into details,
Every
but
single Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, pretty much those was my family, we would eruptions, loud fighting, huge meltdowns, temper tantrums of my dad. Like it was volatile. Holidays were volatile. And I don't know why. I don't know why for him it was, but that was the tone set every year. It's a joke in our family at this point. We got through one Christmas a few years ago, and my sister, my brother, and I were like, it was like almost midnight on Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day. And we were like, you guys, we fought. Like, Dad's fine. Like it was hysterical. And he's like, what are you talking about? We say it to him, and we're like, you didn't get mad once today. Like you didn't get mad. You didn't storm out of the room and leave the table once today. And he is like, what are you talking about? Like,
of course.
He has no, and we just are like, oh my God. And my mom's like, Joe, like, and he just doesn't see it. But yeah, it's some kind of theme in our family. This feels like not an episode like of a helpful nature.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know where we're talking about self-care because now I just want to go into my whole history of Christmases and I'm thinking, is that really what the listener's here for?
We just really wanted the title to work.
Yeah, no. We may end up changing the title and then they'll never know what the title was. So we've come into this recording with the idea of calling this self-care, the present you give yourself. But I don't know if we end up changing it. But just in case we end up changing it, I need everybody
just so you can appreciate it.
Yeah.
What about you? What do your Christmas days look like, or did they look like?
I loved Christmas growing up. I have the best memories of Christmases just being so exciting, so much fun. People being on their best behavior in my household. People, and my nan would always be there as well. And we have some family friends that basically grew up with. Them more like family. 3 years in a row, they came to us for Christmas, I think around the ages when I would have been 8, 9, 10. And their daughter I'm really close with. And so it was just sleepovers. And my memory is really magical of Christmases. And then in 2010, my mum died quite close to Christmas. And I haven't liked Christmas Day since. I like Christmassy time. So I enjoy December. I enjoy doing Christmas social things. I enjoy everything being decorated. And it really helps get through the winter, I think.
Yes.
So I like Christmassiness. So there was a couple of years after my mum died, because I was a police officer at the time, when I worked on Christmas Day to avoid it. And yeah, I just never liked Christmas Day since losing my mum.
What do you do on Christmas Day then? Or how do you like meet that now?
Try and make it as un-Christmassy as possible. I think I've had 3 Christmas days in Tenerife. That helps. I tell you, that helps. That's really good.
Tell, because I didn't even know what Tenerife was until missing. Is this like a, go ahead.
It's a Spanish-owned island, but it's pretty far south. It's just off the coast of Africa. So it is warm all year round. So we're talking sunbathing, 25 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. I guess that's in the 70s, I think. Really, really nice. And we have family friends out there. There was also a Christmas day when I was in self quarantine for COVID. That would have been 2020. I spent Christmas Day completely on my own with a frozen meal, and I had a lovely time. I think
Yeah,
we spoke about it at
I
the
think
time, or
so
we have
because I feel like
spoken
I
before
knew
on the
that.
podcast.
Hmm.
Yeah. The last 2 years, actually, I've gone to my cousins. That has been quite Christmassy, and that's been with extended family, and that's been quite nice. But I have quite a small family, and my brother and sister-in-law always go to Texas for Christmas.
Yeah.
And we don't have any kids in our family as well. So there's no small, excited children around to make it feel, I don't know,
Yeah. There's something
like,
about kids and
yeah,
Christmas,
yeah. It's just grown-ups being
but
grown-ups.
it's not always. Well, okay. So you take care of yourself by.
I take care of myself by trying to have Christmases that don't remind me of old Christmases,
Okay.
because that I'd feel sadder if that were the case.
Yeah.
So I will not spend a Christmas day in my parents' house. So the house that would remind me of my mum, I won't. No.
Yeah.
This year I've moved into my own flat, finally bought
Yeah.
my own place. So it's quite possible that I will host my dad for Christmas. I don't know who else. It could, it could. It's one of those funny things because also with my cousins, they've invited us the last couple of years, but 2 years ago, I kind of, I kind of inadvertently ended up inviting ourselves, and it was a whole really weird thing. In that it just got a bit weird that it felt like I'd invited us along, and I felt like I'd put myself on, and they panicked. I think at the suggestion that we were together for Christmas, and I just felt really awkward about it. So then they invited us the next year, which was really nice. They obviously didn't hate having us. So then this year, this must be so boring for the listener. This can't be an episode, Steph. How can this be an episode? Like,
Well,
this
I
is
was going to
complete.
ask you, like
Oh,
what you're talking about is making you've turned Christmas into like, I think we both got to this place of talking about making Christmas a here and now experience instead of
Mhm.
necessarily having expectations of it, like based on past experiences. And I feel like that's actually valuable. It's just that we took a really long time getting there. But like, of making something your own day instead, because I think
Mhm.
there is this idea of even with body image, comparing ourselves to our former bodies, maybe, or how we used to diet on Christmas and not eat the cookies. And now, like just what is Christmas to you today? What do you need today
Mhm.
to be here? And because I think there is this retrospection with holidays of like the ones that came before it because it's an annual thing. And there's an innate comparison. And I wonder if there's this messaging here between us of doing what we need to do in the here and now.
I think it can be such an act of self-care to release yourself from those expectations about what Christmas Day should be, or that you're supposed to be with the family the whole time. To
Mm,
remind me of what you've talked about before, where you've spoken about just taking yourself off to your room and having a lie down. And I need a moment when I am not around all of this, because there could be a sense of, oh, you can't just go off to your room. It's Christmas Day. We have to all be together.
right.
This expectation piece, and maybe even setting people up for it. So if you're somebody and you think, actually, I would really benefit from an hour on my own in the middle of the afternoon, tell people in the morning. Just say, mid-afternoon, I'm going to need a little lie down, so I'm just going to take myself off for an hour. But I'm telling you now so that it doesn't look like I've suddenly gone in a funny mood or something like
Yeah.
that and then taken myself off. So that could be one way of getting around it if you're with family where the expectation is that you're all going to be together
Yeah.
every minute from morning till night.
I was just thinking because I host Christmas Day now for my in-laws, and I need to break. I need a break, especially because I'm coming off a day or several days with my own family. It's a lot. It's a lot of. It's a lot. So I do. I go upstairs to my room. Sometimes I just tell Mike, I'm like, I'm just gonna sort of. I don't tell anyone else. I tell him, and I just need like 20 minutes. Nobody even misses me. And the other thing I do is I don't expect myself to get dressed up. I used to hate getting dressed, on Christmas. I wear sweatpants and like I make it cozy Christmas. And I remember feeling like guilty about that. Like, oh, I'm supposed to dress up and I'm hosting. And I'm like, who the heck cares? I'm cozy Christmas it is. And that's another way I take care of myself. I don't feel bad about it. I did a little in the beginning, but now I'm like, who doesn't want to be in their pajamas and slippers on Christmas? I mean, I'm sure some people don't, but I do. So I don't expect myself to like appear a certain way either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one too.
What
There
about
was
food though? Like food's difficult to navigate on Christmas Day.
I think again, like as a self-defined permitter, I think Christmas Day was a day where I actually felt like I could give myself a break.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm,
So it was just, okay, I'm going to be around people. Everyone's going to be eating more, and that's fine. And also because I'm around people, I know I'm not going to go unconscious and binge. So I
okay.
don't have that to battle with myself too. So I think, even I'm trying to think in the hardest parts of my eating disorder. I don't remember the food on Christmas Day being a particular
Hmm.
source of stress for me.
That's interesting.
Sometimes being gifted food could be challenging. And oh my god, yeah, the amount of times that I'd bought edibles for people, not those kind of, I said when I said
I know.
edibles, that's
I know what
like
you meant. Yeah.
edible gifts for people. The amount of times I'd just eaten them myself, like I couldn't do it. I had to stop buying presents that people could eat because that person who was going to eat it was often me and having it
Totally.
there.
I
It's
used to
not.
resent people giving me gifts that I could eat. I was like so mad at them. I would throw it away right away and then fish
I
it out of the
think,
garbage.
yeah, I don't think it was resentment. I think sometimes it was a bit of fear. I would get it and be
Mm,
like, okay, gosh. I
mm,
think it was almost as well like, oh, I'm going to end up binging on these anyway. There
yeah.
was almost a resignation, I think, with
Get
that.
so mad. I remember my aunt got me a box of these like peppermint candy crush or Oreos. They're from Trader Joe's. They're called, I forget what they're called. I don't know. But I was like, I don't even like them. I don't like peppermint flavor unless it's ice cream. But oh God.
Peppermint
Yeah,
ice cream.
like mint
What?
chip, chocolate chip mint.
Oh, yeah, actually, that is a thing. Sorry, when you said peppermint, it just sounded wrong. But then when you said mint ice cream, I'm like,
Is that
oh, that's
peppermint? What's the case? It's
probably.
candy cane flavor.
Yeah,
I do
probably.
love chocolate chip mint ice cream. It's my favorite, but I don't like I don't even like Oreos that are coated in these. I don't like candy canes. But anyway,
Mm.
I ate it anyway. And that was hard. Like as a restrictor, I wonder if, yeah, that's gonna be an interesting poll. Is Christmas Eve like more easy because we stay more conscious? There is more inherent reward acceptability of food that day. For restrictors, that might feel, I know that felt different. It was either a binge, wild, massive, volatile binge, or its counterpart. I have
Mhm.
fasted the entire Christmas day before, which is terribly hard to do just from a practical perspective. And oh my gosh, yeah. Or I've just binged my way through it to the point where I would be writhing in pain in bed. But and there's middle grounds too. Not everything's extreme for everybody. Navigating it is where the self-care is there. Depends on where you are, I think. But one thing I do feel strongly about is that on Christmas Day, I think our window of tolerance is much smaller because people are around typically, it's families around typically, boundaries are all over the map, or lack of them, enmeshment stuff. Like there's so much invisible stress that goes on in Christmas that the food as coping mechanism or body image as coping mechanism, the likelihood of that vulnerability is very high. And
Mhm.
so what I would expect, quote unquote, myself to be able to do on a Tuesday in March is different than what I would expect myself to be able to do on Christmas Day from the standpoint of like recovery, especially in the beginning of recovery. Like my Christmases were tough the first year for sure, even though I'd had 6 months under my belt of recovery, that was like things were improving. But on Christmas Day and even after, like even the years after, like I would really overeat a lot on Christmas, which is normal, but I meant above normal. Um, because I think of just the little bit of the dysregulation there. And again, there's this understanding of like what's going on and having a little more compassion for the situation and the context of that day, which I wouldn't have afforded myself before. I would have just been like, what's wrong with you? And now I'm like, oh my gosh, all this kind of stress has shrunken my window of tolerance. And now I can't,
Mhm.
like, so just that piece is like, if you're an introvert, it's harder. Like there's a lot going on.
I think the days after Christmas might have been harder for me.
Mm.
The more food being around, it's more in a kind of leftover type way. You're not all together all the time. Um,
Yeah. Like the leftover factor.
mhm.
And that week is such a weird week.
It is a weird
Oh,
week.
it's like the no man's land of the year.
I feel sometimes a bit jealous of the Southern Hemisphere who get their Christmas in the summer because I basically have to take time off work over Christmas and New Year. I'm like, why am I taking time off when the weather's crap?
Mm.
Like, what am I
Oh,
going to
I
do?
like it.
No,
I
I'd
like it. It's so
rather.
cozy and fireplacey. See, here I go again with the pictures that don't exist. In
Yeah,
my
she doesn't even
mind,
have a
that's what it is.
fireplace.
No, I do. But we don't turn it on. It's like this is exactly the thing is like you picture something and then you expect it and then it gets here and you're like, it isn't that. I
Mm.
fall for it. See, I still fall for it. But I have learned to like that week, but it can be a bit, especially if you don't work or you do have off that week, but other people don't. You're like, what do I do with myself now? You know what I mean? It's just such a strange time, I think. It's like a Sunday night or something. Like it's
A really, really long Sunday night.
yeah. And then even though you've got New Year looming. And how do you take care of yourself through that? I think that's maybe more potent.
I probably just sulk a bit and feel sorry for myself.
Well, that's fair.
As well, I do this thing sometimes where well, between Christmas and New Year, because I'm not working from a client perspective, that's the time to catch up on everything. So sometimes I do this thing where I have this idea that I'm going to be really productive in that period.
Yeah.
I tell you what really did, just talking about that week between Christmas and New Year, the year I was doing a 10-day self-isolation for COVID. So it was from Christmas Eve for 10 days. And I thought I was gonna go absolutely stir crazy because this was when it was really strict. You couldn't even step outside and walk around the block. The police might knock at your door any moment to check that you're
Yeah.
in. I remember I completely surrendered to just a complete lack of, I took all pressure off. And it was actually really enjoyable because there was no pressure to do anything. I did miss going outside a bit, but not nearly in the way that I thought, which is also reminding me now when I actually had COVID, I kind of enjoyed it because I didn't feel physically well, but that just sinking in
Mm-hmm.
to, do you know what? I'm just going
Yeah.
to be cozy and I'm just going to really think about what I want to watch and like, what do I want to eat and what do I like, all of those kinds of let's take the pressure off and giving yourself a proper break.
Do you,
Um, yeah.
do you know why that's different from if that like you're talking about being intentional and conscious about what movies you're going to watch and when you're going to take a nap and things. The difference between making those conscious intentions versus them just happening anyway, because you might say, well, that's what I end up doing, just watching movies all day and taking naps, but it feels crap. I think that when we've got this expectation of it be like when you're saying I'm going to use this week as this productive week, I think that's the temptation to like be like there's all this free time I'm going to do all these things I don't otherwise get a chance to do, and fair enough that sometimes that's the only time we have. But I have adopted like a new philosophy because I used to do that and I used to be like that's when I'm going to build my course, that's when I'm going to do this, that's when I'm going to make reels. And then I'm like, no, that's actually the time that I need to slow down and restore and watch movies and take naps and make that the actual plan. So when I do that on purpose and make it like that's what's in my agenda, that's what's in my calendar, that is when I can actually enjoy it and like get something from it versus if it just happens by default and I feel like I'm actually supposed to be doing something else. It's like
Hmm.
mental restriction.
But that bit there is the key bit is when you said, if I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else, that's the key bit for me.
Yeah.
When I really let myself off the hook and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be doing something else.
Right.
I announced to my friends after my mum died, I'm not doing Christmas presents, not interested. I used to love shopping for Christmas presents for people. And then I was just like, no, don't buy me anything. I won't buy you anything.
Yeah.
Let's go out and do something. Let's spend the money that we would have spent on gifts and let's go and have a meal out or do something like that. And sometimes people are like, what? And I don't know why it was so easy, but with that, it just felt easy to release myself from what
It's
I'm
black and
supposed
white. See what we talked about in our all or nothing episode? Like there's something sometimes of like you're getting rid of the expectation in a black and white way that does allow you to fully be in the not expectation or, like to fully release something. So dear listener, what if you didn't need to do so much over the next week, or depending when you're listening to this, like all these sort of plans, like what if you minimized them or did one thing instead of five things? Like how does really stepping into that and owning it consciously and intentionally like change? And I guess it would be the way you would look at this is to see how do you react to that. Like, does that make you feel like, oh, yes, that's what I want. That's what I need. Does that feel like relief? I could understand too for others who might be getting lost in being untethered that might not feel so good to not have anything to tether to. Maybe it's just the amount of expectation.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what I'm going to do this Christmas week. I mean, obviously, we're recording this and it's not actually Christmas. I mean, spoiler to everybody.
Shh. You're showing them behind the curtains. Shush. I was going to use AI to put Christmas hats on us and Christmas trees in the background, and not let on that it's actually October.
I wasn't going to go that far.
We've got a busy November.
Totally takes the magic out of it. It's not even Halloween yet. We can't say that, but I'm really, I think the week between on Christmas Day, I'll be hosting. The week between Christmas and New Year's, I am doing nothing. I have no plans, and I'm not going to put any in unless they spontaneously come up and appeal to me. I'm sure I'll do stuff. Like I'm sure that will come up, but I'm not planning to.
So for me, I need plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plans for things I actually want to do. I don't mean planning to do productive stuff. But if I left that week between Christmas and New Year with nothing in, that doesn't feel good to me. Everything in me is just feels stressed at the thought of that.
So funny. It feels so good to me. Because then I could plan things in the way I want them to, because there's no pressure.
I had a friend who wants to come and stay, and I suggested 2 weekends. One is 2 weeks away, and one is 5 weeks away. And this friend's been really burned out recently. And so she sends me a message back, and then, yeah, I really want to come and see you, but I need a week to think about it, to just be able to figure out whether this is what I need right now. That's just what I need. I hope that's okay. And I'm like, nope, I'm not leaving the weekend 2 weeks away for a whole week empty. I just can't do it. Because the later one, okay, I could give her a week. For the last weekend, the weekend in 5 weeks' time, sure, take a week to think about it. And I understand why someone would need a week to think about it. I don't mind that that's what she needs, but I also know what I need. And I need to not be holding a weekend completely empty that's only 2 weeks away for a week, and then a week before finding out that they're not coming.
What does it bring up?
My process.
What is the fear or the discomfort?
The kind of surface level answer that's just coming to my head is I like things to look forward to. I've got other people that I want to try to fit in. And then if I push them back later, be like, oh man, I could have seen them that weekend. I guess the fear would be as well, which is actually unlikely, but the fear would be that they don't come and then I have a completely empty weekend. Nuh-uh.
What's the fear about a completely empty weekend?
There's no fear, Stefanie. There's no fear. I just don't want it, okay?
Leave me alone. I don't want to talk about this. We're talking about self-care. What about you? Okay. We don't need to dissect.
No, I don't mind. I'm only teasing. But I just work with that. I just know that I need to.
I like your boundaries. Because I expect that there's somebody listening who heard you just say that, who would be like, well, you can't say that to somebody if they've just asked you politely for some time. And you're coming back with no? Like, who do you think you are?
I just said I can't keep 2 weekends empty.
You said the truth.
One too.
I find your boundaries refreshing and useful.
It's funny because they asked for the week and that was their boundary. And I'm like, I hear your boundary, but this is my
raise
boundary.
You mine. It's fair. I also feel like what you're doing, I mean, I'm sort of like kind of merging my own ideas with it, because if I know for myself that when I don't have enough plans, I can like devolve a little bit. It feels like those weekend days where you end up just grazing through the whole day. Like that's the equivalent to me of what that feeling is. And so I know, and I've learned that even though I'm an introvert and even though I don't like pressure, I also do need to have something, because otherwise it kind of can slip into this other kind of way that feels too ungrounded. But I just need to be the one in charge of it. And I also need to pretend like I have no expectation and then secretly put in a plan. So if I were in that situation, I would be like, cool, yeah, let me know later. And then that would help me. I don't know, that would like almost feel good to me. But having the boundary, I think, is like of knowing how you work and knowing how to protect that.
Yeah.
Or how to make that happen for yourself is it's always come back to that question of what do I need right now, or what do I need this week, and figuring out what that even is. And then how do I honor that? Or how do I put boundaries to make sure I get that?
Yeah. I just want to add something that I did say to this person, we can absolutely leave it to the new year. Why don't you just take the time that you need, and then when you're ready to come and visit me, let me know and we'll sort a weekend out. So I don't want it to sound, I wasn't trying to put pressure on her to say, you have to make a decision now, because that wasn't how I felt
No,
about
it
it. I
didn't
wasn't
read that
thinking
way.
like, oh, I want her to make a decision now. That's why I'm saying it. It's just, I can't, I
No, I
can't,
think
I'm
it's very clear
willing.
what you're saying. That setup, that arrangement doesn't work for me. Let's do it this other way. Or let's look at a different date.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fair.
Yeah. Although I haven't heard back, and that was yesterday. So I hope everything's okay.
Let us know.
Have you heard of the expression wintering? Because there's a book on it as well.
Mm.
Again, it was a while ago. I started listening to the book, and I kind of liked the concept, but I was a couple of chapters in and I thought, I don't need to hear a whole book about this.
I find that a lot of times.
Yeah. But it was kind of embracing the wintering
Yeah.
and the coziness of it.
Yeah.
And the way the book was written, it was all these lovely things about making jams or jellies or all these sorts of things that I love this idea of pottering and
I
all of
love
that,
that
but
word.
I actually find it very hard to do.
But maybe it's the permission to do it. Something about that concept, like living seasonally, almost like living in rhythm with nature, and that winter would be a time for this sort of closing. I find that when I give myself permission to winter, I would have never called it that, but I do think of it like that. Um, I am more prone to like expansion instead of constriction. I give myself permission to constrict, do less, be more still, and in that permission, I actually find more flow. But for me, it's all about the idea of the permission. It's like the same way COVID was so helpful in certain ways, because we all had permission to be an introvert. Like, is it about expectation? Like, is it about pressure? I guess what you're saying is potentially like, what's the value of actually wintering, not just releasing the pressure to not. But
Well, and I get the whole, okay, it's a time for doing less and working with the seasons makes sense to me. So then in the summer, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to do some new project or spend a lot of time working because it's summer and I want to be outside. And then it's winter and it's like, okay, well, now I'm hunkering down. I'm not doing anything. And it just feels like no season seems the right time because I have different, I guess, different needs. I can understand the need. I feel less motivated for sure in the winter, less inspired, less entrepreneurial, if you like. And in the summer, I might feel more of it. But in the summer, I want to selfishly just enjoy the summer.
I agree. But I think I feel like my words aren't going to come out right. I almost think it's not really about the actual level of productivity, but about matching your energy to something that then it's kind of what I was saying before. Like, when I give my body permission to be slower, I am more productive.
Yeah.
Like right? Like it's not about the actual slowing down. It's maybe just about moving with a season. Because I end up being productive not in according to the season or anything, but it's more about when I'm in a flow state. And maybe achieving a flow state has to do with an energy that you have with us in conjunction with the season. I don't know. There's something about that I can't get my head around in words.
No, that does make sense. I think you got the words around it pretty well.
Because last Christmas break, I wrote my whole sensor course, and it was the most flowing. That came out in such a flow state for me, but it was under the guise of
Hmm.
fireplace and cozy blankets. I didn't plan to do it like that. It just happened because I was willing to be under a blanket, and like I had no other expectation. And then the flow happened. I don't think you can. I can't plan it like
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah. Makes sense.
What the heck?
I think we should call this episode a Christmas morning ramble. So people know that they're just
Okay.
going to get a bit of a ramble, and then the title kind of sets them up for it,
Mm,
and they'll hear in it what we were going to do, and they can
all right.
just for people that enjoy listening to us
For those
ramble.
five of you.
Let's just-
This episode's for the loyals.
It sure is. And we appreciate you. Next week it's going to be New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Next week's episode. So we will be reflecting on our words that we had for this year. For those of you who have been listening for over a year, might know what they were and how they turned out for us this year. And we'll be picking new words. Or we'll be talking about picking new words for next year
Yeah.
if Steph can get around her resistance of having to
Still
pick
have it.
a word. Okay.
All right
Well,
then, folks.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas and Happy New Year. And to those of you who don't celebrate, Happy Wednesday.
Yeah.